Do you ever feel like you are always anxious? Like there is a loam of worry running beneath everything you do? Like you can never fully relax? And you have tried everything. Tried to be perfect. Tried to be strong. Tried to control everything. But the anxiety never goes away. Never stops. And you are so tired. So exhausted. So done with feeling this way. Do you ever wonder why you are like this? Why you cannot just be? And maybe you blame yourself. Think there is something wrong with you. Think if you just tried harder, the anxiety would go away. But it does not. And you are left wondering, will I always feel this way? Tonight, we explore this through Karen Horney, a psychoanalyst who understood that your anxiety is not your fault, is a response to something that happened long ago. In childhood, when you learned the world was not safe, and you developed strategies to cope. But these strategies, though they once protected you, are now the source of your suffering. And the call is to understand your anxiety, to see where it comes from, to recognize the strategies you use, and to begin to let them go. This is the still point, where women gather to do the deep work, the work of understanding, of healing, of finding relief not through more striving but through understanding. If you are called to this work, subscribe. Be here in the quiet hours, doing the work that matters. Let the world fall away. You are safe here, and the work begins now. Insight 1, the constant hum of anxiety. Perhaps you have lived with it so long you do not even notice it anymore. The anxiety, the worry, the sense that something is wrong. It is always there, in the background, like a radio you cannot turn off, and you have learned to function with it. But it exhausts you, drains you, takes so much energy just to keep going. And perhaps you have tried to understand it, have asked yourself, why am I like this? What is wrong with me? And you have tried solutions. Meditation, exercise, therapy, and some help for a while. But the anxiety always returns. And you begin to believe this is just who you are. That you are an anxious person, that this is your nature. But Karen Horney would say, this is not who you are. This is what happened to you. The anxiety is not your nature. It is a response to early experiences, to childhood, to a time when you did not feel safe, did not feel protected. And you learned very young that the world is dangerous, that you are alone, that you must protect yourself, because no one else will. Horney called this basic anxiety, the fundamental feeling of being isolated and helpless in a potentially hostile world. And this anxiety is not about specific threats. It is a pervasive sense of unsafety, a feeling that you are not okay, that the world is not okay, that something bad is always possible. And this feeling shapes everything, how you relate to others, how you see yourself, how you move through the world. And the call is to recognize this, to see that your anxiety is not random, is not a flaw in your character, is a response, a reasonable response to an unreasonable situation. You learned to be anxious because you needed to be, because it kept you safe. But what once protected you is now imprisoning you. And it is time to understand this, to see this, to begin to change your relationship with anxiety. Insight 2, moving toward people. And perhaps this is how you learn to cope. By moving toward people, by making yourself needed, by taking care of others, by being helpful, by being nice, by never saying no. Because if you are needed, you are safe. If you are helpful, you are valued. If you are nice, you are loved. And if you are loved, the anxiety will go away. Or so you believed. Horney called this the compliant type, the person who moves toward people to manage anxiety, who seeks safety through connection, through being needed. And you became very good at this. Learn to read people, to anticipate their needs, to make yourself useful. And it worked. For a while, people did need you, did value you, and you felt safe, felt less anxious. But there was a cost. You lost yourself, lost your needs, lost your voice. Because to be needed, you had to be selfless. To be helpful, you had to ignore your own needs. To be nice, you had to suppress your anger. And slowly, over years, you disappeared. Became only what others needed. Only a reflection of their desires rather than a person with your own. And the anxiety did not go away. Because now you are anxious about being needed. What if they do not need you anymore? What if you say no and they leave? The anxiety shifted, changed form, but did not leave. And now you are trapped in a pattern of giving, of pleasing, not because you want to, but because you are terrified of what will happen if you stop. Insight 3, moving against people. Or perhaps you learned a different strategy. Not moving toward people, but moving against them. Not seeking safety through connection, but through control. Through power. Through never being vulnerable. Through never needing anyone. Because if you are strong, you are safe. If you are in control, nothing can hurt you. And if you are powerful, the anxiety will go away. Or so you believed. Horney called this the aggressive type, the person who moves against people to manage anxiety, who seeks safety through dominance, through competition, through being on top. And you became very good at this. Learn to be tough, to be strong, to never show weakness, to handle everything yourself. And it worked. For a while. You achieved. You succeeded. And you felt safe. Felt less anxious. But there was a cost. You became isolated. Became alone. Because to be strong, you could not be vulnerable. To be in control, you could not trust. And slowly, over years, you built walls, built a fortress around yourself. And you were safe inside. But you were also alone, cut off, unable to let anyone in, unable to let anyone see you. And the anxiety did not go away, because now you are anxious about losing control. About showing weakness. What if you cannot handle it? What if you need help and no one is there? The anxiety shifted, changed form, but did not leave. And now you are trapped trapped in a pattern of control, of strength, not because you want to be, but because you are terrified of what will happen if you let go. Insight 4, moving away from people. Or perhaps you learned yet another strategy. Not moving toward people or against them, but away from them. Not seeking safety through connection or control, but through distance, through detachment, through not needing anyone. Because if you do not need anyone, you cannot be hurt. If you do not care, you cannot be disappointed. And if you are detached, the anxiety will go away. Or so you believed. Horney called this the detached type. The person who moves away from people to manage anxiety. Who seeks safety through independence, through emotional distance. And you became very good at this. Learn to be alone, to need no one, to keep people at arm's length. And it worked. For a while, you were safe, protected, and you felt less anxious. But there was a cost. You became numb, became empty, because to not need anyone, you had to shut down your needs. To not care, you had to shut down your feelings. And slowly, over years, you became disconnected. Not just from others, but from yourself, from your feelings, from your life. You were safe, but you were also not really living. And the anxiety did not go away, because now you are anxious about being alone, about missing life. What if you were wasting your life? What if you need connection and it is too late? The anxiety shifted, changed form, but did not leave. And now you are trapped in a pattern of distance, of detachment, not because you want to be, but because you are terrified of what will happen if you feel. Insight 5, the idealized self. And beneath all these strategies is something else. An image, an ideal, a version of yourself that is perfect, that has no flaws, no weaknesses, no needs. Horney called this the idealized self, the perfect version of you that you believe you should be, that you strive to be. Because if you can just be this ideal, the anxiety will finally go away. Or so you believe. And this idealized self is different for everyone. For some, it is the perfect mother, always patient, always loving, never tired, never angry. For others, it is the perfect professional, always competent, always successful, never failing. For others still, it is the perfect woman, always beautiful, always young, never aging. And you have spent your life trying to become this ideal, trying to be perfect. But the idealized self is not real, is not achievable, is not human, is a fantasy, a defense against anxiety. And the more you try to become it, the more you fail. And the more you fail, the more anxious you become. And you are caught in a cycle of striving, of failing, of anxiety, and you are exhausted. And Horney called this the tyranny of the should, the endless list of shoulds that govern your life. I should be more patient. I should be more successful. I should be stronger. I should be perfect. And these shoulds are not your desires, are the demands of the idealized self. are the voice of anxiety, are the impossible standards you set to try to feel safe. But they do not make you safe. They make you miserable. Insight 6, the call to understanding. And so the call comes, not to fix yourself, not to overcome your anxiety, not to become the idealized self, but to understand where your anxiety comes from, to understand the strategies you developed, to understand how these strategies, though they once protected you, are now the source of your suffering. And this understanding is not comfortable, is not easy, because it means looking at your childhood, at the ways you were not safe, not protected, not loved as you needed to be loved. And this is painful, is grief. But Horney would say, you cannot heal what you do not understand, cannot change what you do not see, cannot let go of strategies until you understand why you needed them. And so the call is to slow down, to stop trying to fix yourself, to stop striving for the idealized self, to stop using the strategies that are exhausting you, and to simply look, to see, to understand, to recognize that your anxiety makes sense, that your strategies made sense, that you did what you needed to do to survive. But that now that you are an adult, now that you are safe, you can choose differently, can develop new ways of being, can find real relief. And this is not a quick process, is not a simple solution, is deep work, is the work of understanding yourself, of seeing yourself clearly, of accepting yourself fully, of letting go of the idealized self and discovering the real self, the self that has been there all along, beneath the anxiety, beneath the strategies, waiting to be seen, waiting to be accepted, waiting to be lived. And the call is to begin this work, to take the first step, to acknowledge, I am anxious, and I want to understand why, and I am willing to look, even if it is painful, even if it takes time. I am willing, because I cannot live like this anymore, cannot continue with the constant anxiety, cannot continue striving for an impossible ideal. I am ready to understand, ready to change, ready to find real relief. Now we hold up the mirror, and what you see will not be comfortable. We'll show you how your strategies for managing anxiety have become the source of your anxiety. We'll show you how the idealized self you created to feel safe is the reason you feel unsafe. We'll show you how the patterns you developed to protect yourself are now imprisoning you. This is not to blame you, not to shame you, but to help you see clearly, because you cannot change what you do not see, cannot heal what you do not understand. And the mirror shows you everything, shows you the cost of your strategies, shows you what you have sacrificed, shows you what you have lost. And in seeing this, you can begin to choose differently. Insight 7, the cost of compliance. Look at what it has cost you. This strategy of moving toward people, of making yourself needed, of always being there, of never saying no. You thought it would bring you safety, thought it would bring you love, thought it would ease the anxiety. But look at what you gave up. Look at what you lost. You lost yourself, lost your voice, lost your needs, lost your desires, lost your boundaries, lost your life. Because to be needed, you had to disappear, had to make yourself small, had to erase yourself, had to become only what others wanted. And the mirror shows you this, shows you how you have spent decades taking care of everyone except yourself, how you have given and given and given until there is nothing left, how you have said yes when you meant no, how you have smiled when you were angry, how you have stayed when you wanted to leave, how you have accommodated when you wanted to assert, how you have made yourself invisible so that others could be visible, how you have silenced yourself so that others could be heard, how you have shrunk yourself so that others could expand. And you are exhausted, depleted, empty, but you cannot stop, because stopping means facing what you have been avoiding. The fear, the terror, the anxiety that if you are not needed, you are nothing. If you are not helpful, you have no value. If you are not pleasing, you will be abandoned. And this fear is so deep, so old, so fundamental, that you would rather disappear than face it, would rather lose yourself than risk being alone, would rather give everything than risk being rejected. But the mirror asks, is this working? Is this strategy bringing you what you need? Are you safe? Are you loved? Are you at peace? Or are you anxious, resentful, exhausted, invisible? And if this strategy is not working, if it is costing you everything and giving you nothing, why do you continue? Why do you hold on? Why do you not let go? And the answer is fear. Fear of what will happen if you stop. Fear of who you will be if you are not needed. Fear of the anxiety that will come if you let go of this strategy. But the mirror shows you the anxiety is already here, is already consuming you, and this strategy is not protecting you from it, is feeding it, is making it worse. And so the mirror invites you to consider, what if you stopped? What if you said no? What if you put yourself first? What if you had boundaries? What if you let yourself be seen? What if you let yourself have needs? What if you risked being rejected for being yourself rather than being accepted for being what others want? Yes, some people might leave, might not like it, might be angry, but would that be worse than this? Worse than disappearing? Worse than losing yourself? Worse than living in constant anxiety about being needed? The mirror does not answer, only asks, only shows, only invites you to see clearly and to choose. Insight 8, the cost of aggression. Or look at what this other strategy has cost you. This strategy of moving against people, of being strong, of being in control, of never being vulnerable, of never needing anyone. You thought it would bring you safety, thought it would protect you, thought it would ease the anxiety. But look at what you gave up. Look at what you lost. You lost connection, lost intimacy, lost softness, lost trust, lost love. Because to be strong, you had to be hard, had to build walls, had to keep everyone out, had to be alone. And the mirror shows you this, shows you how you have spent decades being strong, being in control, being independent, never asking for help, never showing weakness, never letting anyone see your fear, how you have competed when you wanted to connect, how you have dominated when you wanted to be equal, how you have controlled when you wanted to trust, how you have pushed away when you wanted to be close, how you have built a fortress around yourself, and you are safe inside, but you are also alone, so alone. And you are tired of being strong, tired of being in control, tired of never letting anyone in, tired of never being vulnerable, tired of never needing anyone. But you cannot stop, because stopping means facing what you have been avoiding: the fear, the terror, the anxiety that if you are not strong, you will be hurt. If you are not in control, you will be overwhelmed. If you need someone, they will abandon you. If you are vulnerable, you will be destroyed. And this fear is so deep, so old, so fundamental, that you would rather be alone than face it, would rather be isolated than risk being hurt, would rather control everything than risk trusting anyone. But the mirror asks, is this working? Is this strategy bringing you what you need? Are you safe? Are you connected? Are you at peace? Or are you anxious, lonely, exhausted, isolated? And if this strategy is not working, if it is costing you everything and giving you nothing, why do you continue? Why do you hold on? Why do you not let go? And the answer is fear. Fear of what will happen if you let go of control. Fear of who you will be if you are not strong. Fear of the anxiety that will come if you let go of this strategy. But the mirror shows you the anxiety is already here, is already consuming you. And this strategy is not protecting you from it, is feeding it, is making it worse. And so the mirror invites you to consider, what if you let go? What if you were vulnerable? What if you asked for help? What if you trusted someone? What if you let someone in? What if you let yourself need? What if you risked being hurt for the possibility of connection rather than being safe in isolation? Yes, you might be hurt, might be disappointed, might be let down. But would that be worse than this? Worse than being alone? Worse than never connecting? Worse than living in constant anxiety about losing control? The mirror does not answer, only asks, only shows, only invites you to see clearly and to choose. Insight 9, the cost of detachment. Or look at what this third strategy has cost you. This strategy of moving away from people, of being detached, of not needing anyone, of not caring, of keeping your distance. You thought it would bring you safety, thought it would protect you from pain, thought it would ease the anxiety. But look at what you gave up. Look at what you lost. You lost life, lost feeling, lost connection, lost meaning, lost yourself. Because to not need anyone, you had to shut down, had to go numb, had to disconnect, had to stop feeling. And the mirror shows you this, shows you how you have spent decades keeping people at a distance, not letting anyone get too close, not needing anyone, not caring too much. How you have withdrawn when you wanted to engage. How you have numbed when you wanted to feel. How you have detached when you wanted to connect. How you have isolated when you wanted to belong. How you have built a wall of indifference around yourself. and you are safe behind it. But you are also not really living, not really feeling, not really here. And you are lonely, so lonely, but you cannot reach out, cannot connect, cannot let anyone in, because connecting means facing what you have been avoiding. The fear, the terror, the anxiety that if you need someone, they will disappoint you. If you care, you will be hurt. If you let someone in, they will leave. If you feel, you will be overwhelmed. And this fear is so deep, so old, so fundamental, that you would rather be numb than face it, would rather be alone than risk connection, would rather feel nothing than risk feeling everything. But the mirror asks, is this working? Is this strategy bringing you what you need? Are you safe? Are you alive? Are you at peace? Or are you anxious, lonely, empty, numb? And if this strategy is not working, if it is costing you everything and giving you nothing, why do you continue? Why do you hold on? Why do you not let go? And the answer is fear. Fear of what will happen if you feel. Fear of who you will be if you need someone. Fear of the anxiety that will come if you let go of this strategy. But the mirror shows you the anxiety is already here, is already consuming you, and this strategy is not protecting you from it, is feeding it, is making it worse. And so the mirror invites you to consider, what if you felt? What if you needed someone? What if you let yourself care? What if you connected? What if you let someone matter? What if you risked being hurt for the possibility of being alive rather than being safe in numbness? Yes, you might be disappointed, might be hurt, might feel pain, but would that be worse than this? Worse than being numb? Worse than not feeling? Worse than living in constant anxiety about needing someone? The mirror does not answer, only asks, only shows, only invites you to see clearly and to choose. Insight 10, the tyranny of perfection. And beneath all these strategies is the idealized self, the perfect version of you that you believe you should be. And the mirror shows you how this idealized self has tyrannized you, how it has driven you, how it has exhausted you, how it has made you hate yourself. Because you can never be this ideal, can never reach this standard, can never be perfect enough. And every day you fail. Every day you fall short. Every day you are not enough. And this failure feeds the anxiety, makes it worse, makes you try harder, makes you strive more, makes you push yourself further. But you never arrive, never succeed, never become the ideal. Because the ideal is not real, is not human, is not possible. And the mirror shows you the shoulds, the endless list of shoulds that govern your life. I should be more patient. I should be more successful. I should be more beautiful. I should be stronger. I should need less. I should be better. I should be perfect. And these shoulds are not your voice, are not your values, are not your desires, are the voice of the idealized self, are the voice of anxiety, are the impossible standards you set to try to feel safe. But they do not make you safe. They make you miserable. They make you anxious. They make you feel like a failure every single day. And the mirror asks, who says you should be this way? Where did these shoulds come from? Are they really yours? Or are they the internalized voice of parents who were never satisfied? Of a culture that demands perfection? Of a childhood where you learned that you were not enough as you were? And if these shoulds are not really yours, if they are not serving you, if they are making you miserable, why do you obey them? Why do you let them govern your life? Why do you not question them? Challenge them? Let them go? And the answer is fear. Fear that if you let go of the shoulds, if you stop striving for the ideal, you will be nothing. Will have no value. Will be unworthy. Will be unlovable. But the mirror shows you are already exhausted, already miserable, already anxious. And the shoulds are not protecting you, are not making you safe, are not making you loved, are making you hate yourself, are making you feel like a failure, are feeding the anxiety you are trying to escape. And so the mirror invites you to consider, what if you let go of the shoulds? What if you stopped striving for the ideal? What if you accepted yourself as you are? Imperfect, limited, human. Would that be so terrible? Or would it be relief? Inside 11, the false promises. And the mirror shows you something else. Shows you the false promises. The lies you have been telling yourself. The beliefs that have kept you trapped. You believed that if you were just good enough, the anxiety would go away. If you were just perfect enough, you would be safe. If you were just strong enough, you would be loved. But these are lies, are false promises, are the neurotic bargain. The belief that if you fulfill certain conditions, now we hold up the mirror, and what you see will not be comfortable. We'll show you how your strategies for managing anxiety have become the source of your anxiety. We'll show you how the idealized self you created to feel safe is the reason you feel unsafe. We'll show you how the patterns you developed to protect yourself are now imprisoning you. This is not to blame you, not to shame you, but to help you see clearly. Because you cannot change what you do not see, cannot heal what you do not understand. And the mirror shows you everything. Shows you the cost of your strategies. Shows you what you have sacrificed. Shows you what you have lost. And in seeing this, you can begin to choose differently. Insight 7, the cost of compliance. Look at what it has cost you. This strategy of moving toward people, of making yourself needed, of always being there, of never saying no. You thought it would bring you safety, thought it would bring you love, thought it would ease the anxiety. But look at what you gave up. Look at what you lost. You lost yourself, lost your voice, lost your needs, lost your desires, lost your boundaries, lost your life. Because to be needed, you had to disappear, had to make yourself small, had to erase yourself, had to become only what others wanted. And the mirror shows you this. Shows you how you have spent decades taking care of everyone except yourself. How you have given and given and given until there is nothing left. How you have said yes when you meant no. How you have smiled when you were angry. How you have stayed when you wanted to leave. How you have accommodated when you wanted to assert. How you have made yourself invisible so that others could be visible. How you have silenced yourself so that others could be heard. How you have shrunk yourself so that others could expand. And you are exhausted, depleted, empty. But you cannot stop, because stopping means facing what you have been avoiding. The fear, the terror, the anxiety that if you are not needed, you are nothing. If you are not helpful, you have no value. If you are not pleasing, you will be abandoned. And this fear is so deep, so old, so fundamental, that you would rather disappear than face it. Would rather lose yourself than risk being alone. Would rather give everything than risk being rejected. But the mirror asks, is this working? Is this strategy bringing you what you need? Are you safe? Are you loved? Are you at peace? Or are you anxious, resentful, exhausted, invisible? And if this strategy is not working, if it is costing you everything and giving you nothing, why do you continue? Why do you hold on? Why do you not let go? And the answer is fear. Fear of what will happen if you stop. Fear of who you will be if you are not needed. Fear of the anxiety that will come if you let go of this strategy. But the mirror shows you the anxiety is already here, is already consuming you, and this strategy is not protecting you from it, is feeding it, is making it worse. And so the mirror invites you to consider, what if you stopped? What if you said no? What if you put yourself first? What if you had boundaries? What if you let yourself be seen? What if you let yourself have needs? What if you risked being rejected for being yourself rather than being accepted for being what others want? Yes, some people might leave, might not like it, might be angry, but would that be worse than this? Worse than disappearing? Worse than losing yourself? Worse than living in constant anxiety about being needed? The mirror does not answer, only asks, only shows, only invites you to see clearly and to choose. Insight 8. The cost of aggression. Or look at what this other strategy has cost you. This strategy of moving against people, of being strong, of being in control, of never being vulnerable, of never needing anyone. You thought it would bring you safety, thought it would protect you, thought it would ease the anxiety. But look at what you gave up. Look at what you lost. You lost connection, lost intimacy, lost softness, lost trust, lost love. Because to be strong, you had to be hard, had to build walls, had to keep everyone out, had to be alone. And the mirror shows you this. Shows you how you have spent decades being strong, being in control, being independent, never asking for help, never showing weakness, never letting anyone see your fear. How you have competed when you wanted to connect, how you have dominated when you wanted to be equal, how you have controlled when you wanted to trust, how you have pushed away when you wanted to be close. How you have built a fortress around yourself, and you are safe inside, but you are also alone, so alone. And you are tired of being strong, tired of being. Now we descend into the architecture, into the theoretical framework that explains why you are the way you are, why the anxiety developed, why the strategies formed, why the idealized self emerged, This is not abstract theory. It's the map of your inner world, the blueprint of your neurosis. And in understanding this architecture, you gain the power to change it, to dismantle what no longer serves you, to build something new, something real, something that allows you to live without constant anxiety. Insight 13, the origins of basic anxiety. Horney understood that basic anxiety does not come from nowhere, is not genetic, is not biological destiny, is learned, is developed in childhood, in response to specific conditions. And she identified what creates basic anxiety in a child, what makes a child feel isolated and helpless in a hostile world. And it is not dramatic abuse, not obvious neglect. It is something more subtle, more pervasive, more common. It is the absence of warmth, the absence of genuine affection, the absence of being seen, being understood, being valued for who you are rather than what you do. It is parents who are too busy, too preoccupied, too anxious themselves. Parents who love conditionally, who approve only when you perform, who withdraw when you fail. Parents who use you to meet their needs rather than meeting yours, who make you responsible for their emotions, who cannot tolerate your authentic self. And as a child, you cannot leave, cannot protest, cannot change the situation, can only adapt, can only develop strategies to survive, to get some version of what you need, to manage the anxiety of not being safe, not being loved, not being enough. And these strategies become automatic, become part of you, become the way you relate to everyone, to everything, to yourself. And they follow you into adulthood, into your relationships, into your work, into every area of your life. And Horney would say, this is not your fault. You were a child. You did what you needed to do to survive. But now you are an adult. And these childhood strategies are no longer necessary, are no longer helpful, are now the source of your suffering. And understanding this, understanding where the basic anxiety came from, is the first step in letting it go, in developing new ways of being, in finding real safety, not the false safety of neurotic strategies, but the real safety of being yourself. Insight 14, the neurotic solution. And Horney understood that the three strategies, moving toward, moving against, moving away, are not just behaviors, are neurotic solutions, are comprehensive ways of organizing your entire personality around managing anxiety. Each strategy comes with its own worldview, its own values, its own way of seeing yourself and others, its own way of defining safety and danger, success and failure, worth and worthlessness. If you move toward people, you see the world as a place where love and approval are everything, where being needed is safety, where pleasing others is survival. You value harmony, connection, being good, being helpful, and you fear rejection, abandonment, being alone. Your worth depends on others needing you, valuing you, loving you, and you organize your entire life around getting this, around being indispensable, around never being rejected. If you move against people, you see the world as a jungle, where only the strong survive, where power is everything, where vulnerability is weakness. You value strength, independence, success, control, and you fear being weak, being dependent, being hurt. Your worth depends on being strong, being successful, being in control, and you organize your entire life around this, around never being vulnerable, around never needing anyone, around always being on top. If you move away from people, you see the world as intrusive, demanding, overwhelming, where the only safety is distance, where the only peace is solitude. You value independence, self-sufficiency, freedom from others, and you fear being trapped, being obligated, being overwhelmed. Your worth depends on not needing anyone, not being affected, not caring too much, and you organize your entire life around this, around maintaining distance, around staying detached, around never being vulnerable to connection. And Horney would say, these are not just strategies. Our entire ways of being are comprehensive solutions to the problem of basic anxiety. And they work. To a degree, they do reduce anxiety, do provide some sense of safety, but at enormous cost, at the cost of your real self, your authentic needs, your genuine feelings, your capacity for real connection, real intimacy, real life. And this is the tragedy of neurosis, that the solution becomes the problem, that what you do to manage anxiety creates more anxiety, that what you do to feel safe keeps you trapped. Insight 15, the idealized self as defense. And Horney understood that the idealized self is not just perfectionism, is not just high standards, is a comprehensive defense system, is the way you try to eliminate basic anxiety by becoming someone who does not have it, someone who is beyond it, someone who is perfect. And this idealized self has specific characteristics, specific qualities that you believe will make you safe, will make you loved, will make you worthy. For the compliant type, the idealized self is perfectly loving, perfectly selfless, perfectly understanding, never angry, never demanding, never needing anything, always there for others, always giving, always sacrificing. And if you can just be this, you believe everyone will love you, will need you, will never leave you, and the anxiety will go away. For the aggressive type, the idealized self is perfectly strong, perfectly competent, perfectly successful, never weak, never failing, never needing help, always in control, always winning, always on top. And if you can just be this, you believe nothing can hurt you, no one can reject you, you will be safe, and the anxiety will go away. For the detached type, the idealized self is perfectly independent, perfectly self-sufficient, perfectly unaffected, never needing anyone, never caring too much, never being vulnerable, always free, always detached, always above it all. And if you can just be this, you believe nothing can touch you, No one can hurt you. You will be safe, and the anxiety will go away. But the idealized self is impossible, is not human, cannot be achieved. And the more you try to become it, the more you fail. And the more you fail, the more you hate yourself. The more anxious you become, the more desperately you try. And you are caught in a vicious cycle of striving, of failing, of self-hatred, of more striving. And this is what Horney called the tyranny of the should. The endless demands, the impossible standards, the voice that says, you should be better, you should be more, you should be perfect. And this voice is not your friend, is not helping you, is the voice of neurosis, is the voice of anxiety, is what keeps you trapped. Insight 16, neurotic claims and entitlement. And Horney identified another aspect of neurosis, what she called neurotic claims. These are the unconscious demands you make on the world, based on the idealized self, based on the belief that because you are trying so hard to be perfect, the world owes you something, should give you something, should reward you for your efforts, for your sacrifices, for your perfection. If you move toward people, your neurotic claim is, because I am so loving, so giving, so selfless, people should love me, should appreciate me, should never leave me, should meet my needs without me having to ask. And when they do not, when they take you for granted, when they leave, when they do not appreciate your sacrifices, you feel betrayed, angry, resentful. But you cannot express this anger, because that would mean you are not perfectly loving. So you turn it inward, blame yourself, hate yourself, and become more anxious. If you move against people, your neurotic claim is, because I am so strong, so competent, so successful, the world should recognize this, should reward me, should never challenge me, should never make me fail. And when it does, when you are not recognized, when you fail, when you are challenged, you feel enraged, humiliated, threatened, and you must fight harder, control more, prove yourself again, and the anxiety grows. If you move away from people, your neurotic claim is, because I ask for nothing, because I need no one, people should leave me alone, should not demand anything from me, should not intrude, should not expect connection. And when they do, when they want more from you, when they need you, when they will not leave you alone, you feel trapped, overwhelmed, resentful, and you must withdraw further, detach more, and the anxiety grows. And Horney would say, these claims are neurotic because they are based on a false premise. The world does not owe you anything. People do not have to behave according to your idealized self, do not have to reward your neurotic strategies. And when you insist on these claims, when you feel entitled to them, you create suffering, create resentment, create more anxiety, because the world will not comply. People will not meet your neurotic demands, and you will feel betrayed, angry, more anxious, and the cycle continues. Insight 17, the real self beneath. But Horney also understood that beneath all of this, beneath the basic anxiety, beneath the neurotic strategies, beneath the idealized self, beneath the neurotic claims, there is something else, something real, something authentic. She called it the real self. And this real self is not perfect, is not ideal, is not what you think you should be, is simply what you are. Your genuine feelings, your authentic needs, your real desires, your human limitations, your imperfections, your vulnerabilities, your strengths, your weaknesses, all of it. The whole messy, complicated, imperfect human you. And the real self has been there all along, has been buried, suppressed, denied, because it did not fit the idealized self, because it was not safe to be real, because being real meant being rejected, being hurt, being alone. And so you learned to hide it, to suppress it, to pretend it did not exist. And you created the idealized self instead, the perfect version, the safe version, the version that you believed would be loved, would be accepted, would be safe. But the real self never went away, has been there all along, waiting, trying to be heard, trying to be seen, trying to be lived. And it speaks to you in your dissatisfaction, in your exhaustion, in your anxiety, in the sense that something is wrong, that you are not living your real life, that you are not being yourself. And this voice, this sense, is not the problem, is not the enemy, is the real self, calling you home, calling you back to yourself, calling you to stop pretending, stop performing, stop striving for an impossible ideal, and to simply be, to be real, to be yourself. And Horney would say, the goal of therapy, the goal of healing is not to become the idealized self, is to let go of the idealized self, to stop trying to be perfect, to stop using neurotic strategies, to stop making neurotic claims, and to discover the real self, to accept the real self, to live as the real self. And this is not easy, is not comfortable, because the real self is vulnerable, is imperfect, is human, but it is also free, is authentic, is alive, and it is the only self that can truly be at peace, can truly be safe, can truly be happy. Insight 18, the path to the real self. And so the architecture is complete. You understand now where the basic anxiety came from, how the neurotic strategies developed, how the idealized self emerged, how the neurotic claims formed, and how the real self has been buried beneath all of this. And understanding this architecture is not the end, is the beginning, is the foundation for change, for healing, for finding real relief from anxiety. Because now you can see clearly, can see what you are doing, can see why you are doing it, can see what it is costing you, and you can begin to choose differently, can begin to let go of the neurotic strategies, can begin to question the idealized self, can begin to release the neurotic claims, can begin to listen to the real self, can begin to be real, to be authentic, to be yourself. And this is the path, not to perfection, not to the elimination of anxiety, but to a different relationship with anxiety, to a way of being that does not feed it, does not make it worse, does not sacrifice everything to try to escape it. And this path is not quick, is not easy, is not a simple solution, is the work of a lifetime, is the work of slowly, gently, compassionately letting go of what you thought you had to be, and discovering who you actually are, and learning to live as that person, with all the vulnerability, all the imperfection, all the humanity, and finding that this real self, this authentic you is enough, has always been enough, and that the safety you have been seeking, the love you have been craving, the peace you have been chasing is not found in being perfect, is found in being real, in being yourself, in accepting yourself, in living as yourself. And this is what Horney offers. Not a cure for anxiety, but a path to the real self. And in finding the real self, finding real relief. Now we descend into the shadows, into the places you have been avoiding, the places where the anxiety began, where the strategies were born, where the idealized self was created. This is not comfortable, is not easy, is the work of looking at what you have spent your life trying not to see. But Horney understood that you cannot heal what you do not face, cannot change what you do not acknowledge, cannot find relief without understanding the source. And so we go down into the childhood, into the wounds, into the basic anxiety that has shaped everything. Not to blame, not to wallow, but to understand, to see, to finally make sense of why you are the way you are. Insight 19, the unsafe child. And perhaps you do not remember it clearly. The feeling of being unsafe, of being alone, of being unprotected. Perhaps your childhood looks fine from the outside. Perhaps there was no obvious abuse, no dramatic trauma. But Horney understood that basic anxiety does not require dramatic events. Requires only the absence of what a child needs, the absence of safety, of protection, of being seen, of being understood, of being loved unconditionally. And perhaps your parents were not bad people, were not intentionally cruel, were doing their best, but their best was not enough, was not what you needed. Perhaps they were too busy, too stressed, too focused on their own problems. Perhaps they were emotionally unavailable, unable to see you, unable to meet your needs. Perhaps they were critical, demanding, never satisfied. Perhaps they loved you conditionally, only when you were good, only when you performed, only when you met their expectations. And you learned very young that you were not safe, that you could not rely on them, that you were alone, that you had to take care of yourself, that you had to be vigilant, had to be careful, had to protect yourself, because no one else would. And this learning became your basic anxiety, became the foundation of everything, became the lens through which you see the world. And you have carried it ever since, for decades, for your entire life. This feeling of being unsafe, of being alone, of being unprotected. And the shadow asks you to see this, to acknowledge this, to feel this, not to blame your parents, not to make them wrong, but to see the truth, that you did not get what you needed, that you were not safe, that you were alone, and that this was not your fault, was not because you were bad, was not because you were unworthy, was simply what happened, was the reality of your childhood. And this reality created your anxiety, created your strategies, created your idealized self, created everything you have been struggling with. Insight 20, the birth of the strategies. And in that unsafe childhood, you had to survive, had to find a way to manage the anxiety, had to develop strategies. And you did. You learned to move toward people, to make yourself needed, to take care of others. Because if you were needed, maybe you would be safe. Maybe you would be loved. Maybe the anxiety would go away. Or you learned to move against people, to be strong, to be in control, to never be vulnerable. Because if you were strong, maybe you would be safe. Maybe nothing could hurt you. Maybe the anxiety would go away. Or you learn to move away from people, to be detached, to not need anyone, to not care. Because if you did not need anyone, maybe you would be safe. Maybe you could not be hurt. Maybe the anxiety would go away. And these strategies made sense, were brilliant, were exactly what you needed to survive, were how you cope with an impossible situation, were how you managed the unbearable anxiety of being a child who was not safe, not protected, not seen. And the shadow shows you this, shows you that your strategies are not flaws, are not weaknesses, are not failures, are survival mechanisms, are how you protected yourself, are how you made it through. And they worked. They kept you alive, kept you functioning, kept you going. But the shadow also shows you that what worked then does not work now, that what protected you as a child is imprisoning you as an adult, that the strategies that saved you are now suffocating you. Because you are not a child anymore, are not in that unsafe situation anymore, are not helpless anymore, are not dependent anymore, but you are still using the same strategies, still moving toward people, or against them, or away from them, still trying to manage the anxiety the way you did when you were 5, or 7, or 10, and it is not working, cannot work, because the situation has changed, but the strategies have not. And this is why you are exhausted, why you are trapped, why you cannot find relief. Insight 21, the creation of the idealized self. And in that unsafe childhood, you also created the idealized self, the perfect version of you that you believed would finally make you safe, would finally make you loved, would finally make the anxiety go away. And this idealized self was not random, was not arbitrary, was specifically designed to solve the problem of your childhood, to give you what you did not get, to make you what you needed to be to survive. If your parents were critical, your idealized self became perfect, flawless, beyond criticism. If your parents were demanding, your idealized self became successful, accomplished, meeting every expectation. If your parents were emotionally unavailable, your idealized self became If your parents loved you conditionally, your idealized self became whatever they wanted, whatever would earn their love, whatever would make them stay. And the shadow shows you this, shows you that your idealized self is not who you really are, is not who you want to be, is who you believed you had to be to survive, to be safe, to be loved, is the solution to the problem of your childhood, is the answer to the question, what do I have to be to make the anxiety go away? And you have spent your entire life trying to become this ideal, trying to be perfect, trying to meet the impossible standards, trying to earn the safety and love you did not get as a child. But the shadow also shows you that this is impossible, that you can never become the idealized self, because it is not real, is not human, is a fantasy, is a defense, is a child's solution to an adult problem. And no matter how hard you try, no matter how much you achieve, no matter how perfect you become, it will never be enough, will never make you safe, will never make the anxiety go away, because the problem is not that you are not good enough. The problem is that you are trying to solve a childhood problem with an adult life. Insight 22, the grief of what was lost. And as you see all this, as you understand where your anxiety came from, where your strategies were born, where your idealized self was created, something else happens. You grieve. You grieve for the child you were. The child who was not safe, not protected, not seen, not loved unconditionally. You grieve for what you did not get, for what you needed but did not receive, for the childhood you deserved but did not have. And this grief is deep, is profound, is the grief of a lifetime, because you have been carrying this loss for so long, have been trying to compensate for it, have been trying to earn what should have been freely given, have been trying to become perfect enough to deserve what every child deserves simply by existing. And now you see that you cannot earn it, cannot achieve it, cannot become perfect enough, because it was never about you, was never about your worthiness, was about what you did not get, what was not given, what was missing. And the shadow invites you to feel this grief, to let it move through you, to cry for the child you were, to acknowledge the loss, to honor the pain, not to stay in it forever, not to become a victim, but to feel it, to let it be real, to stop pretending it did not matter, to stop minimizing it, to stop saying it was not that bad, because it was that bad. It was bad enough to create basic anxiety, bad enough to require strategies, bad enough to create an idealized self, bad enough to shape your entire life. And in feeling this grief, something shifts, something loosens, because you have been holding this pain for so long, have been carrying it, have been trying to manage it, have been trying to make it go away by being perfect, by being strong, by being needed. But it does not go away that way. Only goes away when you feel it, when you acknowledge it, when you let yourself grieve for what was lost. And in grieving, you begin to let go, begin to release, begin to make space for something new. Insight 23, the terror of letting go. But letting go is terrifying, because these strategies have been with you your entire life, have been how you survived, have been how you manage the anxiety. And even though they are not working anymore, even though they are exhausting you, even though they are imprisoning you, they are familiar, are known, are safe in their own way. And letting them go means facing the unknown, means not knowing how you will manage the anxiety, means not knowing who you will be without them. And the shadow shows you this terror, shows you how afraid you are to let go, how afraid you are to stop moving toward people, or against them, or away from them, how afraid you are to stop striving for the idealized self, how afraid you are to stop trying to be perfect. Because if you let go, what will happen? Who will you be? How will you survive? What if the anxiety overwhelms you? What if you cannot handle it? What if you fall apart? And these fears are real, are valid, are understandable, because you developed these strategies for a reason, because you needed them, because they kept you safe. And letting them go feels like letting go of your survival, like letting go of your protection, like becoming vulnerable in a way you have never been before. And this is terrifying, is the terror of the child who is not safe, who learned that vulnerability is dangerous, that needing is dangerous, that being yourself is dangerous. But the shadow also shows you something else, shows you that you are not a child anymore, that you are an adult now, that you have resources now that you did not have then, that you have strength, have wisdom, have the ability to take care of yourself, that you do not need the strategies anymore, that you can survive without them, that you can handle the anxiety, that you will not fall apart, that letting go is not the end, is the beginning, is the possibility of finally being free. Insight 24, the real self waiting. And beneath all of this, beneath the anxiety, beneath the strategies, beneath the idealized self, beneath the grief, beneath the terror, is something else, something that has been there all along, waiting, the real self, the self that is not perfect, not ideal, not what you think you should be, but what you actually are, human, imperfect, limited, real. And this real self has been buried, has been hidden, has been suppressed, because you believed it was not enough, was not safe, was not lovable. But Horney understood that the real self is enough, is what you actually need, is the source of real relief, not the idealized self, not the perfect version, not the fantasy, but the real, imperfect, human self, the self that has needs, that has limits, that has feelings, that is vulnerable, that is not always strong, not always competent, not always in control, the self that is simply human. And this self, this real self, is what has been waiting for you, waiting to be seen, waiting to be accepted, waiting to be lived. And the shadow invites you to meet this real self, to see it, to acknowledge it, to accept it, not as a failure, not as a disappointment, not as something to be fixed or improved, but as what you actually are, as the truth beneath the strategies, as the reality beneath the ideal, as the person you have always been but have been afraid to be. And in meeting this real self, you find something unexpected. You find relief. Not because the anxiety goes away, but because you stop fighting it. Stop trying to be perfect to escape it. Stop using strategies that exhaust you. And instead, you simply are. Simply exist. Simply live as yourself. And this is what Horney meant by real relief. Not the elimination of anxiety. Not the achievement of the ideal. Not the perfection of the strategies. But the acceptance of the real self. The willingness to be human. The courage to be imperfect. The freedom to be yourself. And in this acceptance, the anxiety loses its power. Not because it disappears, but because you are no longer running from it. No longer trying to manage it with strategies that do not work. No longer trying to become perfect to escape it. You are simply living as yourself with the anxiety. And this, finally, is relief. And now we arrive at integration. At the place where understanding becomes practice, where insight becomes action, where the real self is not just discovered but lived. This is not the end of anxiety. Horney never promised that. Never said you could eliminate it. Never said you could become perfect. But she did promise this, that you can find real relief. Not through neurotic strategies. Not through the idealized self, but through accepting the real self, through living as yourself, through being human. And this integration is not a destination, is a practice, is a daily choice, is the ongoing work of letting go of what you thought you had to be and becoming who you actually are. Insight 25. Recognizing the patterns. And the first practice is recognition, is learning to see when you are using the old strategies, when you are moving toward people, or against them, or away from them, when you are striving for the idealized self, when you are making neurotic claims, when you are operating from basic anxiety rather than from the real self. And this recognition is not always easy, because these patterns are automatic, are unconscious, have been with you so long they feel like who you are. But you can learn to see them, can learn to notice when you are saying yes when you mean no, when you are taking care of others at the expense of yourself, when you are making yourself small to be loved. This is moving toward. Can learn to notice when you are controlling, when you are refusing help, when you are pushing people away to feel safe. This is moving against. Can learn to notice when you are withdrawing, when you are numbing, when you are detaching to avoid feeling. This is moving away. And you can learn to notice when you are striving for the idealized self, when you are telling yourself you should be more, should be better, should be perfect, when you are hating yourself for being human, for having needs, for having limits. And you can learn to notice when you are making neurotic claims, when you are feeling entitled, when you are angry that the world is not rewarding your efforts, when you are resentful that people are not meeting your expectations. And this recognition is not about judgment, is not about shame, is simply about seeing, about awareness, about understanding what you are doing, and why, and what it is costing you. And in this recognition, you create space. Space to choose differently. Space to respond rather than react. space to be real rather than neurotic. This is the first practice. Recognition, awareness, seeing clearly. Insight 26, questioning the shoulds. And the second practice is questioning, is learning to challenge the tyranny of the should. To ask, who says I should be this way? Where did this should come from? Is this really my value? Or is this the voice of the idealized self? Is this what I actually want? Or is this what I believe I need to be safe? To be loved? To be worthy? And this questioning is radical, because you have lived with these shoulds your entire life, have believed them, have organized your life around them, have judged yourself by them. And now you are asking, are they true? Are they mine? Are they serving me? And often the answer is no. They are not true, are not yours, are not serving you, are the voice of anxiety, are the demands of the idealized self, are what you learned in childhood to try to be safe. And in questioning them, you begin to let them go, begin to release their hold on you, begin to create space for something else, for your actual values, your actual desires, your actual self. Not what you think you should be, but what you actually are, what you actually want, what actually matters to you. And this is liberating, is the beginning of freedom, is the first step toward living as the real self rather than the idealized self. And this practice is ongoing, because the shoulds do not disappear overnight. They return, they whisper, they try to reclaim their power. And you must keep questioning, keep challenging, keep asking, is this true? Is this mine? Is this serving me? And slowly, over time, the shoulds lose their power, and you begin to hear your own voice, your own values, your own truth, and you begin to live from that, rather than from the tyranny of the should. Insight 27, accepting human limits. And the third practice is acceptance, is learning to accept that you are human, that you have limits, that you cannot be perfect, cannot be the idealized self, cannot meet all the demands, cannot be everything to everyone, cannot eliminate anxiety, cannot control everything, cannot be invulnerable. And this acceptance is not defeat, is not giving up, is not settling, is reality, is truth, is the foundation of real relief. Because as long as you are trying to be more than human, you will suffer, will be exhausted, will be anxious, will hate yourself for failing. But when you accept that you are human, that you have limits, that you are imperfect, something shifts. The pressure releases. The striving stops. The self-hatred eases. Not because you become perfect, but because you stop trying to be. Stop demanding it of yourself. Stop believing you need to be. And this acceptance includes accepting your needs, your feelings, your vulnerabilities, your weaknesses, all the things the idealized self tried to eliminate, all the things you believed made you unworthy, unlovable, unsafe. And you learn that these things do not make you less, make you human, make you real, make you capable of genuine connection. genuine intimacy, genuine life, because you cannot connect from the idealized self, can only connect from the real self, and the real self is imperfect, is vulnerable, is human, and this practice is daily, is moment by moment, is learning to catch yourself when you are demanding perfection, when you are hating yourself for being human, when you are trying to be more than you are, and gently, compassionately bringing yourself back, reminding yourself, I am human, I have limits, I am imperfect, and this is okay, this is enough, this is real, and in this acceptance, finding peace, not the peace of perfection, but the peace of being real, of being yourself, of being human. Insight 28, expressing authentic needs. And the fourth practice is expression, is learning to express your authentic needs, your real feelings, your genuine desires, not what you think you should need, not what you think you should feel, not what you think you should want, but what you actually need, actually feel, actually want. And this is terrifying because you have spent your life hiding these things, suppressing them, denying them, because you believed they were dangerous, would lead to rejection, would make you unlovable. But Horney understood that you cannot be real without expressing your real self, cannot have genuine relationships without being genuine, cannot find real relief without being real. And so you must learn to speak, to say what you need, to express what you feel, to ask for what you want, even when it is uncomfortable, even when it is scary, even when you fear rejection, because living from the real self requires expressing the real self. And this does not mean being aggressive, does not mean demanding, does not mean making neurotic claims, means being honest, being direct, being clear, saying, this is what I need, this is what I feel, this is what I want, and allowing others to respond, to meet you or not, to accept you or not, and learning that you can survive either way, that rejection is not death, that being real is worth the risk, that authentic connection is only possible when you are authentic. And this practice starts small, with small expressions, small risks, small moments of authenticity, and builds over time as you learn that you can be real, can express yourself, can have needs, and survive, and even thrive. And slowly you become more yourself, more real, more authentic. And you find that the people who can meet you there, who can accept the real you, are the people worth having in your life. And the ones who cannot, who need you to be the idealized self, are not your people. And this is okay, is part of being real, is part of living authentically. Insight 29, building real safety. And the fifth practice is building real safety, not the false safety of neurotic strategies, not the illusion of safety from the idealized self, but real safety, the safety that comes from knowing yourself, accepting yourself, taking care of yourself, the safety that comes from having boundaries, from saying no, from protecting your energy, from choosing relationships that support your real self rather than demanding your idealized self. And this real safety is not about control, is not about being perfect, is not about never being vulnerable, is about being grounded in yourself, knowing who you are, what you need, what you value, and living from that, making choices from that, building a life from that. And this creates a different kind of safety. Not the safety of never being hurt, but the safety of knowing you can handle being hurt. Not the safety of never failing, but the safety of knowing you can survive failure. Not the safety of being perfect, but the safety of being real. And this practice includes learning to self-soothe, to comfort yourself, to be with your anxiety without trying to eliminate it, without using neurotic strategies to manage it, but simply being with it, breathing with it, allowing it, knowing it will pass, knowing you can handle it, knowing it does not mean something is wrong with you, just means you are human, are alive, are feeling. And this capacity to be with your anxiety, to tolerate it, to not run from it, is real safety, is real strength, is what allows you to live freely rather than being controlled by the need to avoid anxiety. And this practice also includes building external safety, choosing relationships that are safe, that respect your boundaries, that accept your real self, that do not demand perfection, that allow you to be human, and letting go of relationships that are not safe, that demand the idealized self, that punish authenticity, that require you to be small. This is not easy, is not comfortable, but is necessary, is part of building a life where you can be real, where you can be yourself, where you can find real relief. Insight 30, living as the real self. And so we arrive at the final practice, the ongoing practice, the practice of a lifetime, living as the real self, not perfectly, not without anxiety, not without struggle, but authentically, really, as yourself. And this means making choices from the real self rather than the idealized self. Means asking, what do I actually want? Not what should I want. What do I actually need? Not what should I need. What do I actually feel? Not what should I feel. And this means accepting that you will make mistakes, will fail, will be imperfect, will disappoint people, will not always be strong, will not always be competent, will not always be in control. And this is okay, is human, is real, is the price of being authentic, and it is worth it. Because living as the real self, even with all its imperfections, is more satisfying than living as the idealized self, is more peaceful, is more free, is more alive. And this means finding that the anxiety does not go away, but changes, becomes less consuming, less constant, less terrifying, because you are not fighting it anymore, not trying to eliminate it, not using strategies that make it worse, are simply living with it, as part of being human, as part of being alive. And in this acceptance, in this willingness to be human, to be imperfect, to be real, you find what Horney promised. Not the elimination of anxiety, but real relief. The relief of being yourself. The relief of not having to be perfect. The relief of being human. And this is the integration, the bringing together of understanding and practice, of insight and action, of the real self in daily life. This is not easy, is not quick, is not a cure, is a practice, is a choice, is a way of being. And it begins now with you, with your willingness to see, to question, to accept, to express, to build safety, to live as yourself, not perfectly, not without anxiety, but really, authentically, as the human you actually are. And in this, finding relief, finding peace, finding freedom, finding yourself. The journey is complete. You've traveled far tonight, through shadows, through light, through depths most never see. Your mind has done its work. You can rest now. This is the still point, your anchor in the sea of thought, a place you can always return to whenever the world becomes too loud. Thank you for listening. Thank you for trusting this space, for trusting yourself. Sleep well. Good night.